want to address Elaine. Elaine says that God only speaks to those people who are psychotic or have something wrong with them. God doesn't speak to everybody. God only speaks to certain special individuals, and there are laws. There are actual laws as to what kind of a person can be expected to receive prophecy. And it isn't the witness that goes onto my site. He is just delusional. I'm sorry, the witness, you're a nice guy, but you're delusional. But Elaine, there are people to whom God does speak to. Doesn't speak the same way as you and I would speak. I haven't seen a video of yours, but I'm speaking to you on the video. God doesn't speak the same way we do. God's speech is heard within the mind of the person who is so attuned for the communication with God. There's all kinds of procedures that such a person is supposed to go through. Certain kinds of meditations, certain kinds of processes that are necessary for a human being, man or woman. Doesn't make a difference. Jew or Gentile, don't make a difference. I mean, Jews have a more natural proclivity. More Jews were prophets, but there is a possibility for a Gentile to be a prophet. There's a possibility for women to be prophetesses. It's not relegated only to the Jews or to men or to a time when the temple exists, as brought down in the Talmud and other sources. According to Maimonides, it depends on how you prepare yourself. You prepare yourself, you become emotionally and intellectually in control, then you can become a prophet. But only great people with great intellectual capacities and great hearts and courageous people, people who overcome all battles within themselves and outside of themselves, only those are the kind of people that can be prophets, not idiots, not people who are psychotic. And no, people who communicate with God don't say that, are not allowed to say it unless they're told specifically by God to communicate. Most of the people who claim that they saw God need to go to a psychiatric ward. But there are people. I saw a man, his name was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Schneerson. I have no doubt that God communicated to him. I have no doubt about it. I saw it over and over and over again. The things that he knew, the things that he saw, the things that he sensed, and they communicated about. This was a man of God. There was one in a generation, two in a generation. There was another man, the Baba Sali, Rabbi Israel Abu Hatzera, also contemporary of Rabbi Schneerson, the Rebbe's, was a man of who had divine knowledge. There's no question about it. Thousands of people came and saw this. I'm sure that there are people in the Gentile community like that, but these are rare people, not ordinary people. A lot of people would like to be those rare people. I'd also like to be a rare person, and I'm not. And so, Elaine, yeah, there are people who talk to God, but they're very, very rare, and they don't tell you that they talk to God. Those who claim that they've talked to God really ought to show it. I challenged the witness, by the way, asking him what my father's name was, and he answered Ben. My father's name is Jacob. And so the witness, you're not a prophet. Another thing I'd like to talk about, and that's the concept of miracles. When do miracles come, and why? And why don't we see miracles? And a lot of people go through life suffering about this. We see a lot of people are very, very sincere. They're totally devoted. People like Elaine, people like Captain Bryce, people like Sandbergs, and the other people on the other side of whom I've learned to admire. These are people who are really, really sincere and want to help people in life. And then they go through crises, or see people in crises, see people who are really nice and deserving, and they have terrible things happening to them. There's a book, of course, Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And there really is no answer to that. And people wonder, why doesn't God intervene? And sometimes the answer is, we have to go through certain things in the physical world. But I wish to address the concept of miracles and when do miracles take place. The first thing you have to know is that miracles taking place are not good for you. When a person has a miracle helping that person out of a crisis that that person can get through and get along on his own, then this reduces the merits of that particular person, number one. Number two, the greatest miracle in the world is nature. The fact that there's a natural order in the world, and we have this wonderful body, and we have this wonderful environment that gives us our needs and our air and our food, and all of the capacities that we have, the wonderful health care that exists in this world, especially in our country, the food supply, the technology that we have. All of these things are found within nature. These things are no less of a miracle than a divine intervention. The only thing is we don't see the divine hand. But if you were to step back, you would see this as a divine plan to help people realize their full potential. Imagine, you're on the road and you're stuck in traffic and you have an appointment, and in the olden days you couldn't do anything about it because you didn't have a cell phone, you didn't have a phone on the corner that you could stop and call people for. Now you can call people on the cell phone, and you can go ahead and text people. You can go ahead and be in communication immediately, instantly with people on the other side of the world. You now have Skype. With Skype, you can communicate with people all over the globe and see the people, and talk to them as if they were next to you. This is no less of a miracle than divine intervention. But with divine intervention, realize the following. God does not intervene until you've exhausted all of your own abilities. God will not speak to a person until that person has developed as far as the human being can develop. The same thing is true with miracles. Just as God won't speak to you until you've developed your heart, you developed your courage, developed your love, developed your determination, developed your consistency, developed your compassion, until you've developed yourself as a human being totally, until you've developed your mind to think properly, to understand things, and to be sensitive to the needs of others, until you've done that, God says, what am I talking to? I'm going to talk to an animal that doesn't do what he can do or she can do about themselves, with themselves. Only when a human being comes to the limits of the human condition, as far as the human being could possibly go. Somebody like my dear friend Gil Locks, who's written the book Coming Back to Earth, and you should all read that book, and if you need a copy of the book, I'll send it to you. Just send the money to Mr. Locks in Jerusalem. Incredible person, the guru in Central Park, stays in Jerusalem today, one of the hidden saints of Jerusalem. And he went to the limits of the human condition. I believe if he says that God speaks to him, I believe him, because he went to the limits of the human condition, to human development. And just as the person has got to go to the limits of your own development in order to reach the next step that God should speak to you, so too, dealing with miracles, God only shows miracles if we've gone to the extent that we can actually go and realize we can't go any further and only God can help us. And sometimes a miracle happens and sometimes it doesn't. But the miracle will only take place when we've done as much as we can and we've gone as far as we can go as people. And then God says, okay, from now on I'll take over. And so, for all of you out there, do as much as you can. Do as much kindness as you can. I know we'll disagree on circumcision, but you know, Elaine, you're a kind person. Do somebody a favor. Captain Bryce, take care of other people. God will take care of you. And I do believe that the Torah is written by God. I'll be glad to have that argument with you. I'll be glad in future communications to talk about that.